Barbarian from Diablo, Garen from League of Legends, Reaper from Overwatch. These characters have one thing in common: they spin to win, and Axe is no exception. Would you rather fight 100 10-year-olds or 10 bears at the same time? Axe would murder the 10 bears and smack the shit out of the 10-year-olds while calling them a smelly doo-doo head at the same time. Axe is really into some weird kinky shit because when he gets touched, his muscles tense up and starts doing some weird sexual dance that instead of arousing you, he chops you up into tiny pieces all while hurling slurs at you. He's a big hairy strawberry who will just talk shit at every turn, and he doesn't hold back. Are you a kid on a wheelchair? He'll roll you down the highway and call you Hot Wheels. You're working in a corporate building and an earthquake happens. You ask him if you can go home for safety. Does he let you? No. He'll call you a brokey and tell you to get back to work while he gets to leave the building like the fucking Chad that he is. This Kool-Aid looking man is all muscle and a roast god. Mogul Khan is a grunt for the Red Mist Army, and he has a goal of becoming the Hokage of the Red Mist Army. He has proven his worth through battle and has risen through the ranks. He rose not just because of his worth as a warrior, but as any warrior does, he has no problems killing his superiors. Through the campaign of the Thousand Tarns, he distinguished himself in combat. His comrades, however, well, let's just say there was a lot more when they started the campaign. At the night of victory, Mogul Khan declared himself the new Red Mist General and took the name Axe. But he had no more troops behind him, and other soldiers shunned Axe's leadership. I don't see what the problem is. He looks like he's great at children's parties. This did not matter to Axe. The enemy army was in shambles, and he couldn't give a hoot if no one would follow him, because if you want something done right, you do it yourself. Axe is a strength melee hero that likes getting smacked around so much he's 2 steps away from just wearing a ball gag to battle. If he gets hit enough times, he will turn into a Beyblade and deal a fuck ton of damage to anything around him. This means that the more enemies are attacking him, the more damage he deals. So he does better against heroes with units or illusions. So what you're gonna want to do is to plant your butt cheeks in the middle of every fight you take and have everyone clap them cakes to return more damage back. When enemies are weak enough, he can execute his targets, which is just the best feeling. He gains armor for each kill he gets, so he naturally gets tankier over time, especially against physical damage. He farms pretty well, which is good because he needs his items. He's weak against magic damage and those that can kite him, but overall he's pretty straightforward. The more you get smacked around, the more you can deal damage back, and when someone's HP is low enough, kill them for more armor. Before I start with the skills, Dota has become League of Legends. Heroes now have passives and facets, which I will now cover. Facets are additional passives players can choose before going into a game, just like League of Legends. I'm not really sure where I'm going with this, I just wanted to mention it. Axe's passive is Coat of Blood. Every time Axe gets a kill, he gains armor, and any kill he gets with Culling Blade will grant 3 times the armor gained. We will discuss Culling Blade later. This lets Axe get tankier over time as he gets kills. A lot of his kit interacts with his armor, which makes him more effective the more armor he has. Berserker's Call. Berserker's Call is an AoE ability that turns Axe into a roast god and says every slur imaginable, forcing affected enemies to attack Axe. He also gains bonus armor during the duration. This is Axe's main CC and best used against as many targets as possible for maximum effect. Battle Hunger. Battle Hunger is a targeted ability where Axe yells slurs at a distance, pissing off the target. Targets affected will take damage over time and will be slowed while facing away from Axe for the whole duration, or if the target kills another unit. It deals a base damage and additional damage based on your armor. This ability gets better over time as you gain armor from items and kills. The damage is not the biggest, but the slow helps in catching up to your targets. Counter Helix. Counter Helix is a passive that causes Axe to spin around dealing AoE pure damage after receiving a set number of attacks. This is where Axe gets most of his damage, and you can start to see where Axe gets his kinks from. Being able to Berserker's Call a group of enemies will get them to attack you, and after being attacked a few times will trigger Counter Helix. So make sure to get in the middle of the group and get your cheeks clapped so you can deal as much damage as possible. This is why we play Axe. Culling Blade is a targeted ability that deals pure damage at the target. When an enemy hero is killed with Culling Blade, the cooldown is refreshed and Axe along with nearby allies gets bonus movement speed and armor. Getting a kill with this ability is the best feeling, especially if you can do it back to back. Culling Blade will go through skills that prevent death, such as Abaddon's Borrowed Time, Troll Warlord's Battle Trance, Dazzle's Shallow Grave, and Oracle's False Promise. Axe does not have a lot of mana, and this ability costs a lot for him, so just make sure you have enough mana when going in for a fight if you plan on using Culling Blade, because I know I wasted so many opportunities because I did not have enough mana. Shard and Scepter. Shard gives enemies affected by Berserker's Call Battle Hunger, and you can give enemies multiple stacks of Battle Hunger. This is an overall DPS increase, but I'm not quite sure if it's as good as the old Shard, but so far I'm liking it. I still think you want this. Scepter removes the cooldown of counter helix, so there will be no delays when receiving the required amount of attacks to trigger counter helix. Auto attacks also reduce the counter for counter helix. Enemies affected by counter helix receive a stacking debuff that reduces the total attack damage they deal to Axe. This is another overall DPS increase as you can trigger counter helix more often. The stacking debuff to enemies is also nice, making Axe a lot tankier. While I do miss that this passive was the old Shard, you still want to get this. For facets, we have One Man Army and Callout. One Man Army gives Axe bonus strength from 50% of his armor when he is not near any allied heroes. He will have the bonus strength for a few seconds after being in range of allies. Callout makes enemies affected by Berserker's Call attack faster and give Axe bonus armor for the duration. In my opinion, you can't go wrong for either one. They are just better at different things. If I had to go for one, I'd go for One Man Army as you'll be tankier for a much longer time while making it more consistent. I felt like I would normally have it even with allies around me. Getting Callout would be better against physical damage dealers with the bonus armor, and the increased enemy attack speed will trigger counter helix faster and will increase your DPS, especially if you have Scepter. So if you're against burst damage, get One Man Army. If you're against more physical damage, get Callout. My opinion might change over time as I play with Axe with these facets. For runes, I wouldn't recommend that you go too hard into securing them. You have a slow but only when they face away from you, so it's not really consistent. Just go with your team and don't put yourself at risk if it looks bad. In the laning phase, Axe is pretty good. He has good damage and a good attack animation. Difficulty will vary depending on who he's laned against. Best case scenario if he's against melee heroes, as he can bully the enemy laners out with a mix of battle hunger and counter helix. If he's against range heroes, then just focus on getting last hits. Don't forget to take advantage of counter helix and farm jungle creeps. If you're really feeling yourself, you can farm the enemy creeps behind their tower, keeping their lane pushed. In the mid game, I think this is where Axe shines, as not a lot of heroes can duel you and tank the damage from counter helix. Make sure to keep your farm up as you can still fall behind if you don't keep up with items. In the late game, with enemy heroes tankier, it's a lot harder to burst enemies down, so your Berserker's Call will be your biggest asset. You also don't push towers well, so just make sure that lanes are pushed but still keep safe. Stick with your team and play around smokes to get pickoffs or to catch the whole team off guard for a huge Berserker's Call before considering any pushes. For level 1, I'd always go for Battle Hunger for the damage over time and slow when facing away from Axe. Next, I'd get Counter Helix, then Berserker's Call, then Counter Helix. Then max out Counter Helix, Berserker's Call, Battle Hunger, and level up Culling Blade whenever you can. Here are the items I'd start with depending if I'm expecting spellcasting or not. Then, here are the items after, in order. I'd start out with Phase Boots for the movement speed, damage, and armor. Next, I'd go for Blink Dagger as Axe is not a very mobile hero. This will let you jump to the best spots for those huge Berserker's Calls. Next, I'd get Blade Mail. This item is just made for Axe, as you want to get hit, and with Berserker's Call, you're going to guarantee that you will get hit, so might as well increase your DPS with the return damage. You can't go wrong with getting Blade Mail or Blink first. Getting Blink Dagger first lets you jump with your team earlier, and getting Blade Mail first lets you bully your lane even further and lets you farm faster. Next is Shard, as giving all enemies affected by Berserker's Call Battle Hunger will not only increase your overall DPS, but also slow them down for your teammates to follow up and clean up the fight. After that, build how you see fit. Here are the items I'd recommend getting after the mentioned items. And here are some of my axe clips.